The US Federal Reserve will not yet taper its asset purchases. The recent surprise announcement leaves the question of when the process will begin once again wide open, creating new uncertainties. With us to discuss the possible path ahead and what the news means for markets is Michael Strobaek, Global Chief Investment Officer at Credit Suisse. Michael, the Fed will not yet start tapering. Were you surprised by this decision?
Yes, we were. And the markets were also surprised by what the Fed decided. They have their reasons. They may be concerned about mortgage-backed securities in the US or the rates of these. They may be concerned about emerging markets overall, and that led them to postpone the tapering. It will come. It will probably come towards year end. The problem is now that we have this uncertainty, as you said. So the certainty that the market thought it had with the tapering has now been replaced by a new uncertainty, and that is timing, amount, and actually why.
Critics are saying that the Fed's announcement has revealed that the crisis is actually deepening as the Fed and other central banks create the conditions for a financial disaster. What's your take on this?
I think that is too much. We have to realize that had the central banks and the Fed in particular not intervened as forcefully in 2008 and 9 as they did, we would have had a much worse crisis. We would have been facing probably the worst global recession we would have ever seen. So to blame the central banks for saying they're now deepening the crisis is the wrong angle. But they need to exit at some point in time, and we would have preferred that they had done it now. Now they're saying you need to wait a little bit, and that for us means we will stay a little cautious until that clarity is here.
The decision has also presumably resulted in a reduction in short-term risk of an uncontrolled and rapid rise of yields in the US. What does the Fed's decision mean for the bond markets in the medium term?
Well, we actually think not much has changed other than that they have postponed it. We still believe that yields will drift up over time. In the medium term, they are right now around fair, so we don't actually expect that they will sort of now, because of this decision, will make these big spikes. And that was what was concerning us. But the uncertainty is now back. Yields will stay probably in a range 270, 290, maybe up to 3% as a consequence of this. But over time, they will start drifting up.
Credit Suisse is underweight in equities, and a reason for that move was the concern that US interest rates could rise too quickly. What's the short-term impact on our tactical positioning?
Well, we feel, to be honest, very comfortable with this underweight because the uncertainty that the Fed has now created is exactly what the markets didn't look for. When uncertainty goes up, risk premiums go up, and that leads, if anything, to a pressure on the prices towards drifting down, and that's our scenario. We still believe that there will be an attractive entry point into markets, but this dust of uncertainty and sort of the cloud of uncertainty needs to settle.
Following the central bank's meeting, the US dollar fell sharply in value. What are the US dollar's prospects over the coming weeks and months?
We think the US dollar should not be much weaker from here versus the euro and also versus the pound or the Swiss franc. It is clear that also all markets, financial markets, bond markets, equity markets, currency markets were surprised by this move, and that of course will lead to downward pressure on the dollar. We think that right now even other central banks may be a little bit concerned that the dollar has become too weak, so we could expect to see the ECB become a little bit more dovish, and therefore the dollar is right now probably a little on the sort of the lower end of where it should be.
And what about the euro? We saw the currency approach a 7-month high versus the dollar after Angela Merkel's victory in the German elections.
Yeah. Well, we think the euro should become weaker now against the dollar. I mean, the central bank in Europe does not have a large interest in having a very, very strong currency or too strong currency versus the US dollar, so the euro could become weaker now.
Thanks, Michael. For more information on market movements and global trends, check out News and Expertise on the Credit Suisse website.